What's going on, friends? Steve coming at you here with another Fired Up Friday networking tip. And today I want to talk to you about conquering your fear. And a lot of you guys know I tell stories about my martial arts experience, so you're going to be stuck with another story. Um, but so when I started, there was the class I was a part of was a really cool group of guys, but a motley crew. It was definitely an interesting group. A lot of guys, inner city, a mix of inner city, some guys that came from some money, but just a big mix of people. It was pretty cool. Um, and one of the guys was a guy. I won't mention his name, but he had an incident happen, unfortunately, where he was riding as a kid. He was riding a bike. He got hit by a car, arm completely paralyzed as a kid, and he had a bit. He had a chip on his shoulder, and without being too specific, a guy who looked like me, he had a thing for. So whenever we would fight, I mean, granted he had one arm that was basically paralyzed, but his one good arm, it was really strong. I mean, his hand was like his when he made a fist, it was like a ham, or it was like huge and it was strong, super strong, and really strong legs. And when he came at me, he was coming at me like he was trying to take my head off. He was like trying to kill me, and you could tell he wasn't just technique. He was fighting with emotion, and maybe in his mind, I was like looked like the guy that that hit him as a kid. I don't know, but he was coming at me, and so intimidating for me. And over time, I started to progress, and I started to develop my skills. I started to actually get really good at at certain things. And one of the things that I perfected was my punch, and I became good at punching, and closing distance, and grabbing one of the arms of my opponent, and getting a punch in there. And I think I did a different video on that particular topic. And so what happened is I started to understand that yes, this guy was extremely intimidating, and yes, he wanted to kill me. But I started to develop my skills and realize that I could actually close distance. Being a little bit of a shorter guy with shorter limbs, if I got in on people closer, especially if they were a little bit taller, and this gentleman was at least 6 foot, um, he'd be jammed up. So I got in, I grabbed his one good arm, and did what I had to do. And uh, all of a sudden, that fear was gone. I conquered the fear. I got over the fear. And, fear, we know the acronym, right? False evidence appearing real, right? Um, it's really not. It's not. I mean, fear. I've also heard the expression, or the concept that fear and faith can't coexist, right? But they're very similar. Faith is something you can't see and you're believing it, and fear is something you can't see and you're believing it, right? So in this case, I just allowed my fear. Also another thing that I've learned, another almost has become a cliche, is action cures fear. So I took action, and the good news is I overcame that fear, and that was a huge milestone for me. So if you're struggling with something, maybe it's talking to people, maybe it's going to networking events, maybe it's getting out of your comfort zone, maybe it's getting good at some particular task that's really intimidating to you. Take action. Take action. Work on whatever you got to work on, and you can do it. So that's my message today. Overcome fear, conquer fear. It's not real. False evidence appearing real. You could do it too. Appreciate you guys. Have an amazing weekend. Steve coming at you here. Fired Up Friday. See you next week.